Welcome back to another episode of Lazy Leverage. I'm joined by Claude Burns from Office Libations, former naval officer. How are you today on this fine Friday, Claude?
I'm doing good, John. Thanks for having me.
Sipping on success, feet up in the air. Why work harder when you can play it smart? That's the lazy leverage way to steal their heart.
I was excited to talk to you because I think you're doing some really interesting stuff in terms of the company you've built, which I'm sure you'll talk about a little bit. Some of the ways you're using global talent. We've talked a little bit about some tech and some agent stuff. We were talking about it. It was really cool to see I think it was somebody on your HR team's excitement around that. So I just wanted to kind of have like a wide ranging discussion about leverage, how you're thinking about it, where you guys are going, blending online and offline, just because you're literally like selling physical goods, which you wouldn't think global workforce, you wouldn't think tech, you wouldn't think whatever. I mean, right? Like, so first let's start with just like a 60 seconds about anything in your background or kind of the company, any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're weird, and my background is weird, so that's probably why.
Me too. Yep, me too.
I kind of mentioned, those Navy guys.
Yep.
I was a Naval Academy grad, and it's kind of had a interesting career. Served on a aircraft carrier, a lot of IT security. This communications officer there, and then down to like
which carrier?
I was on the Lincoln.
Okay, cool. Lincoln's, I think.
Yep.
Having fun these days.
They are busy currently.
Yeah. Okay. Good. They are occupied.
Yep, they're doing what they're supposed to do. So I'm sure they're excited may not be the right word, but they're doing what they're trained to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And then went down to it was kind of an HR role, like using big data to find like successful career Navy SEALs. It was kind of the thing. It was very weird. I was probably not the best fit for that role, but kind of IT, big data, or go figure it out. So almost all my jobs in the Navy were what I call like special projects. They're like not really a career path. And then went to business school and started a company, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that.
Oh, where'd you go to B school?
I went to MIT Sloan. So,
oh, nice.
Froze my ass off, and I don't know if I can cuss on the podcast, but I froze my ass off on in Boston for a couple of years.
Cool.
And yeah, it was a great time, but a lot of kind of like combinations of like technology, trying to do things differently. I saw that in every role that I had as like, let's just do something different and make it better.
Yeah.
And a lot of opportunity to do that.
What'd you think of Sloan?
Loved it. It was
Did you?
It was amazing coming out of, being at the, a military academy, and then being in the military, and then being exposed to a lot of international, people that are really, really smart. A lot of people who had like way different backgrounds and careers than I had. All my buddies are military guys. They're very different than other people. Although sometimes very much the same too.
It's It's I think you're a good example too and Brian Wilson, who runs our training, is a good example too, where I've always liked guys. Some of my closest friends are people who kind of like defy categorization. So they did the like short haircut, Marine Corps, whatever. And then Brian Wilson went to St. John's. Yeah. So, St. John's in Annapolis, where you just like sit around and like eat granola and talk about the great books.
Yep. We played them in a sporting event, by the way.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. The Naval Academy did? Or MIT?
Once a year. It's a big drinking event.
Checks out. I will say, I think I probably mentioned this because it's like one of the 5 touch points I have with the Naval Academy, which was we were in Philly, and the Army-Navy game was always in Philly. And I think in my entire life, when I was in a fraternity, the most drunk I've ever seen anybody is a Naval Academy kid visiting his buddy from high school in the like 8 hours before they have to march out on the field in the Army, like, because it's like a freed animal. Like they've been in a cage. And I was like a bunch of fraternity guys being like, those guys are crazy.
Yeah. I mean that's not uncommon. The stereotypical like drunken sailor, right? You're on the ship.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true because it's all pent up.
And you gotta let loose.
I will say I went through a security background. I've been through many in my previous life. And I remember I was like a little nervous about it. And one of my mentors said, John, you're a Boy Scout. The guy they researched before you was enlisted on a large ship and got dropped off in Thailand with $5,000 for 72 hours, whatever you've done in your previous life is not in the same stadium as the E4 in Bangkok with 3K in his pocket. I was like, thanks. And it made me feel better.
Yep. I will say no comment.
Can you, yeah, exactly. As a former naval officer. Okay, cool. So you did MIT Sloan. Do you have a focus at Sloan, or is it just general like MBA?
Yeah, it's a general MBA. You can kind of like pick what, electives you want to take.
Okay.
So I did a lot of stuff on the entrepreneurship side of the house.
Cool.
I took a couple courses in the real MIT, as I call it. I took a coding class, and it's by far the best class
Nice.
I've ever taken in my life. Yeah, it's
It's a different category. Our head of White Glove, his name's Jesus, if you ever met him, but he's floating around. I write about him sometimes. He's Venezuelan by birth, lives in Argentina, but he did a master's at MIT and like industrial something supply chain. Is really impressive. I'm like, there's a reason we get along, because he's smart as shit.
Yeah.
Just really smart. Really, really smart. So, okay. Actually, I have a small aside here. I've often debated this. So my dad went to HBS in like 1982 and was a career entrepreneur. And he was like, I went entrepreneur when it wasn't cool. Like there's 3 of us who started companies coming out of HBS. Everybody else went to whatever. What do you think? I know that there's a role for the MBA to pivot out of the military because you can kind of like fill out. When you think about your studies in entrepreneurship, do you find yourself saying, oh, these are Porter's 5 forces. Therefore, like, can you teach in that? I know you can teach accounting. I know you can teach M&A, but entrepreneurship specifically, just riff a little bit about in the MBA and then post MBA. Do you feel like you're like, oh, this is I remember my class, Blue Ocean model. I need to redrive the value chain. Like, or are you just like, I liked entrepreneurship?
That's a great question. I think it's nature versus nurture, a little bit of that kind of argument.
Okay.
Are some people born to be entrepreneurs? Are some people,
Is it a learned
or
skill?
can you learn it?
Yeah.
And I think there are skills of being a good entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I think there's certainly, a process to sort of discover customer demand, right? There's certainly a process to build a company and a team. And so you can learn those things. But I do kind of lean a little bit on anyone can do it, but just like anyone can do any job, right? You can
Sure.
do whatever. But the
Yeah.
people suited
Yeah.
for it are going to have an easier time doing it. And so just because you took an entrepreneurship class doesn't make you an entrepreneur. And just because if you didn't take any, it doesn't matter. You'll figure it out. And I think that's the core entrepreneurial trait is you're just going to figure it out.
Correct. Yeah. And I think there are certain subjects that lend themselves more to an MBA environment, and there are others that don't. Would you agree that entrepreneurship, broadly speaking, is probably lower on the tier list than, say, strategic communication or public markets or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, Sloan is a huge like entrepreneurial community. Like lots of startups, lots of success out of MIT from the real MIT side and the business school side. So they do have a very like strong entrepreneurial like culture there. But I think to answer your question, you have to think about like what is the business school's role, right? What is its job?
Yeah.
And it's ultimately to get people jobs, right? Who
Yeah.
do they serve?
And you don't have a job right now.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I don't have a job where they're like, oh, look, we helped you, right? And it's like, well,
Correct.
how much should we play in it, right? And I could argue that for a while, but we'll skip that part. But they're, for the
Yeah, is it just? Well, it's the same as the Naval Academy. Sherman said that about West Point when it was like all of our top officers went to West Point. He's just like, is it because of West Point or despite West Point?
Yeah.
And I remember Sherman said that in his memoirs, and I remember like, despite or because? Key distinction. So yeah,
and I think the answer your question fully is they're feeding what the market wants, right? We want more consultants, we want more bankers, we want when I was there it was 2012 to 2014, so a lot of technology companies, Google, Facebook, were recruiting heavily out of those schools, and so they're feeding what the market wants. But they're also now ETA is a huge part of what it is, where search funds are really
Wow.
Very,
I never would have thought that would have been a
right.
thing. That's crazy.
Yeah, we're very like Stanford HBS, right? That's where search fund guys came out of, and it was very much a structured fund, right? It was not this kind of like independent searcher kind of model that's sort of
Yep.
done. It is all, you have a search fund as sort of a career, and a handful of people did that each year. But now I think
Yeah.
it's a lot more popular and common, whereas other
Wow.
careers have probably faded. In the 80s, I'm guessing banking was probably really,
Correct. Yeah. And I think like top tier
yeah.
consulting was like definitely a big
And
thing.
it kind of
Um,
with the economy, right? It's like you can almost tell where the bubble is, where the MBAs go.
we won't put that in the alumni newsletter. Uh, so did you go straight to Office Libations after Sloan, or did you mess around a little bit?
No, I went straight into entrepreneurship, and technically it's
Cool.
the same original company, but I started a e-commerce subscription beer club.
Ooh,
Yeah, so
nice.
I kind of went in same food and beverage, right? So we stayed
Okay.
there, Libations obviously has, that root came
Sure.
from that. But we were finding award-winning home brewers and working with them to kind of scale their recipes at a real brewery, and then kind of selling that through the subscription club, like this.
Cool
I
idea.
mean, so everything was like subscription box, and so we kind of went with that model. And then all the breweries were like, we're also going to like make new beers every week, and it became kind of less value, lower value prop than kind of what we
Sure.
initially did. And through that journey of kind of making more beer than we were selling online, we had to find other channels, and so we kind of stumbled across these office kegerators and a lot of tech companies around the Bay Area.
That's such a cool journey. First of all, that's awesome. Uh,
This is just
so
made up. I just figured it out as I went. Like it wasn't a
it's normally
it
how it
wasn't a plan.
works.
The beer thing, yeah, I
Yeah,
had
it's
a
normally how
plan
it
at
works.
Sloan. Like we did some research, but not the office libations part.
Now, okay, so did that, and now flash forward till today. I think I remember we were talking like last week or something. You're roughly at about 100 folks. Is that
Yeah,
right?
just under.
Okay, just under 100 folks, and then walk me through just kind of like just for as we go into other stuff like the business model of like and what's the value prop or whatever.
Yeah, we essentially work with companies to resupply their break rooms. That's kind of the basic things, right? They
Cool,
want
in one sentence.
Yeah, they want Diet Coke in the fridge. We put Diet Coke in the fridge,
Yep.
and that sounds like you know dirt simple, right? And in some levels it is, but to do that consistently, to be able to manage sort of changes and work, uh, headcount and how frequency and all of those things, and now multiply it by 70 SKUs,
Yeah.
customize it for each office, manage a team that's in some ways distributed. Somebody's out servicing an office, you don't see them, right? In
Sure.
the military, you can walk your space and you can see all your people.
Sure.
It's a little bit harder when you can't do that. And so we built a lot of software to help us do that better. And we use a lot of, um, technology to make this run at scale and run consistently at scale.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like our philosophy is like, how do we make this like easy to manage? I want kind of a talk, knock, tactical operations center,
Sure.
lights flashing. All right, that's where I need to focus as the manager, right? I don't need to worry about
Yep.
that. I can kind of like, put that to the side. Because otherwise, we have so much data in today's world. You can just look everything and like,
Yeah. Yeah.
stress yourself out. You're like, I didn't actually
Oh,
look
yeah.
at that. Well, yeah, you didn't, but you wasted 30 minutes looking at it. So how do we help our teams know what's important to look at and where to, spend their energy solving problems? Because in an ops business, there's always problems.
It's what you get
Yeah.
paid for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
One of my favorite Nassim Taleb quotes, who's I have mixed feelings about him as an individual, but he's very smart. Is sometimes they did studies that managers getting like daily reports versus weekly. In many cases, the weekly reports overperformed because you're not like jerking the joystick as much. And one of the things he says is when you're crossing the street and you're about to get hit by a bus, you don't care what color the driver's eyes are.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody's just like, how could more data be bad? More data. It's like, why are you looking at the color of the driver's eyes of the bus that's about to hit? There's one piece of data that you need to worry about right now, which is there's a car about to hit
Yep.
you. Right. And so you probably learned that from the military too, because I know in my previous government career, the trick always was green good, red bad. Because when you're briefing like an admiral, like he's zoned out and whatever, and you just have to be like, sir, red, green. And it's like, got it. So I'm sure you've picked up some of that into your operational flows about put Al Jazeera on the flat screen when the congressmen walk through so that they think this is like a real ops center. That's rule number one. Always put Al Jazeera on. And rule number two is green is good, red is bad. It's funny you're laughing because it's true. You always, if you've been in an ops floor like I have, just throw the Al Jazeera on.
That is, yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of performative. We used to call it dog and pony show.
Oh yeah. When the congressman comes in or the CIS or whatever.
You get the VIPs and they're ringing bells and do all kinds of things. And it's like, okay, back to work. We're done with that now.
Exactly. Like, all right, turn the screens off. Nobody uses this.
We're back to work now. Normal situation. We got rid of the dignitaries and now we can kind of
exactly. Everybody's back. So okay. So you're now, how in a business like that, my initial jump out, and it'll tie into some of the tactics or ops stuff that we're talking about. My initial question is, what does differentiation look like? Like, because a Diet Coke's Diet Coke. Is your business all about customer acquisition? Is it all about, like, how do you think about differentiation in that space? Because I imagine there's a lot of people who'd sell them $1 can of Coke for $1.10 or what? Like, is it pricing innovation? Is it service offering innovation? Is it product diversity? Like, how do you think about your competitive positioning?
Yeah, it's not one thing, right?
What do you think is the key? What's the word cloud of your differentiation?
Yeah, I think for us, it ends up being sort of the technology and the data and the information, right? A lot of our industry is very old, very mature, right? Carbon triplicates, right? People have been running
red copy, yellow copy, green copy.
Yeah, exactly. People don't even know what that means, right? But like we see them, right? We go in and take over a program, and we'll be like, this is like their paper invoice that, was, created for, like, I don't even know what they are. The printers that have the things you got to tear off the sides, right? Like,
Like, oh yeah, the little dots. And for the holes.
And like, ultimately, like, we're B2B, but every B2B company is a B2C company, right? You're selling to a person, and our people, we're selling to a lot of tech companies, a lot of professional service companies. They're used to like consumer experiences that are very good. And all of a sudden they're going and working with, a company that's not going to give them information, not going to give them data, not going to make it easy, not going to pick up the phone, right? Like, not going to deliver when they said they were going to. It's like very hard to go from a consumer experience to what the industry has. So honestly, it's not one thing. It's the layer of all of those things creating the experience that they're used to, like in their personal lives, for this particular segment of their business, or as a particular vendor that they use in their workplace operations.
So it's really a customer intimacy strategy, and that customer is a sophisticated buyer who wants to replicate their consumer grade experiences when they're restocking their break room, and they don't want to have to go to some old website and send a fax. They want to go to a modern, sleek interface, have some data about what people are buying and and that it's really a customer intimacy play for the modern break room buyer.
Yes.
Right. And then everything that is, which is technology and service and product features and right? So that sounds like ultimately what it is it's customer intimacy for the modern break room buyer.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to put it. Like, you're getting data in your business in every other way, and a lot of the legacy vendors, and a lot of them are big multinationals, don't provide that level of information to them. They're kind of like, we don't care, right? Like, this is how we've been doing it.
Buy or don't buy, leave me alone.
Since the 80s, right? So like, why would we change? And in some ways, they're big enough where they don't need to change, right? But for us to compete, we need to provide consumers with experience, or businesses with an experience that they're used to, that they're is valuable to them. How can we help them understand like where their money's going, right? How can we help them understand how they can make their program better, right? Or deliver more value per, more bang for their is really what it ultimately comes down to. And do they trust us to deliver, right? That's really what it, I think it really is the business of trust, of like, I trust you to take care of my break room. It's always done the way I want. I don't have to worry about it. Now, me as the person managing that program, I can focus my attention somewhere else because I got other vendors to manage. I got 10 new hires coming in that I need to make sure are set up. I got all these other things worrying about. I don't have to worry about you, and being able to remove that from their plate is part of like our value.
Which is like done.
It's like your team is freed up now to focus on like actual things that are going to drive your business forward, rather than Diet Coke on the shelf, right? It's very important for us.
Sure.
You probably have better things to do inside your business than that.
So given the origination story, I'm guessing you're not venture back.
No, we're not.
Okay, cool. Oh, no, I'm just guessing. But I could, in that era, I could have seen a pitch deck for like break room as a service and some big TAM chart and, like, but it doesn't really belong to be venture back, but I could have seen during that era it getting venture back.
Yeah, there's a handful of companies that are
Yeah, see? All
that
right.
are venture backed. We're maybe not smart enough, good enough to to raise venture,
No,
but
dude. No, you like your life too much.
we're I
You
think
like your life too
we've
much.
always looked at it as like, we had to be scrappy, right? And that's
Yeah.
coming out of the military. It's like you just figure out a way to get it done. It's like, here's the resources you have. You got 2 quarters and a paper clip. You're going to figure out how to get it done, right? And that's kind of the ethos that I was taught, right? Like, and it just sort of goes through business, right? And it's like, this is the way it is. And I've been lucky to find a lot of team members that share that mindset and are willing to be scrappy. Like, sometimes it means you have to say no, right? We can't hire this person that we wanted because they're too expensive, right? We can't buy the new flashy thing because we got this elsewhere.
I will say that that's ultimately what also the similar journey, what led me to Global Talent was I wasn't interested in raising venture. And people are like, awesome. Yeah, just get like a chief of staff. And I'm like, awesome. What's that cost? They're like 180,000 plus you have to give them RSUs. And I'm like, bro, I'm running a company that does $3 million in revenue. What words are you? I don't understand your words. And so I was like, all right, but I want to have great people. And so I had to be innovative in terms of where I could hire those people and how I use them because I didn't have a piggy bank.
Yeah.
And it's like, I had to get, it's like, well, all these SOPs, do you really need them? I'm like, no, hire somebody who you pay $180,000 to be your executive assistant and you don't need them. But I'm trying to do it with somebody who's 2 years out of school in Kenya who I pay not that, right? And so that's why I had to develop this was ultimately it's an insurgent strategy. It's an insurgency strategy, which is I'm not well resourced. I don't know what I'd do if I had resources. It's like I don't even know what I'd do with myself, right? So that's really what led me down the path of kind of like a global workforce to supplement like my very non-technology businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a brilliant policy or brilliant sort of idea, company, whatever you want to kind of put that out there, because
What, Office Libations? Yeah, I would hope that you think it's brilliant.
Fantastic, right? Like, I mean, when I went to business school, like meeting all, I was, military, we like waving the flag and like doing all those things, and then meeting people, from other places and being like, they're fucking brilliant. Like,
Yeah. This guy's like our linguist, and he's smarter than I am.
You're like, oh shit, like, like, and just seeing that, and like we see it in our international team members, they're all very talented. There is perception that like we're Americans, we're better than everyone, right? And I kind of like enjoy that personally, but it's not realistic. I think we just happen to be very lucky to be born where we were born and kind of have the benefit of being American.
I think Mark Twain has a quote about like travel is the greatest attack to all prejudice or something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I think if you come out of your background or my background, living like a ton abroad and stuff, like you can't meet an Iranian dude who's well educated or whatever and not have your opinion become more sophisticated with, vis-a-vis our policy towards the Islamic regime. Like you can't, because he's like, oh no, I hate those guys too. You're like, wait, but you're Iranian. It's like, no, but that's our government. Your government doesn't always do stuff. If you like, it's like, oh, it's different. We're American. It's like, no, it's not. It's the same thing, right? Like, and so I think travel or exposure in those kinds of environments it slices through this kind of parochial, local. I mean, I think it just cuts through it, and then obviously we all carry this experience into our private sector careers. That was certainly
like you always hear those ideas of like post high school people should like join the military for 2 years as a Peace Corps or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea.
something.
Just because I think it gets people out of their bubble, right? If you grew up in like, just anywhere in the United States, right? You grew up in the Northeast, you grew up in California, you're Texan, right? Like you already have these kind of biases that, you are going to have. And when you kind of like meet someone that's like, oh, I'm from Texas, but that guy from Vermont's actually pretty cool, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's not
Yeah,
that
it's the same thing on it, just a different scale.
right. He
Yeah.
talks a little funny, but like he's not that different from me, right?
Yeah, that's what I say about our Colombian colleagues, including our producer who's
Yeah.
listening. No, I'm just kidding, Alex. I'm just giving you a hard
He's
time.
like, uh-huh.
He's like, leave me alone. The thing, I don't know if you knew this, but I mean, it's a nice continuation from what you said. But ultimately, the seed of Sagan is I saw Alex is putting stuff in the chat. It's funny. I'm not going to look at it; it'll distract me. The ultimately the seed of Sagan was identifying that there are incredible people who just happen to be born in other countries with a lower cost of living. And people had this 25-year-old understanding of what a global workforce was, which was essentially, in my opinion, dehumanizing.
Yeah.
It was BPO, it was call centers, it was, you don't tell other people that your CSRs are in another country. It's a secret that when you get bought by private equity and they're trying to juice earnings and you outsourced, you BPO'd, whatever. And I'm like, dude, these are just people who happen to be in another country and treat them like that and have business models that don't require this like extrapolation model to connect these two groups. And like ultimately that is, when I think about Sagan's branding, we talk about trying to make global talent three-dimensional.
Yep.
Not like get a VA. It's like, bro, that person's like your COO. They're not your VA. What? And so that was really the core of what Sagan started as was taking this approach that you and I have from our international experience and saying, okay, well, if I only can pay 20 cents of the dollar to everybody I hire globally, that's so restrictive to the Brazilian investment banker who wants to come help Claude with M&A.
Yep.
Right. So that's ultimately it was a kind of a byproduct of exactly what you and I were just talking about.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. Like our first VA, right? I think we hired.
Yep. That's usually how it starts, by the way. I'm not shitting on that. I'm just saying that's the appetizer.
He's the third most tenured person in the company, by the way. Right?
That's
Like he's been with
crazy.
me for I think over 8 years now. And he's
Vincey's 9 and she's our managing director. She's number one in our company.
done a great job, right? Like
Yeah.
awesome. And like we kind of made that as we, expanded our, technology teams, our other teams. We
Yeah.
made the conscious choice to stop, we were just calling everyone a VA, right? And it's like, no,
Yep.
they're just our international team members, right? They're just distributed around the globe. And
Exactly.
again, I think it does take a little bit of time. I will say to
Yep.
figure out how to manage remote team members.
Yep.
Obviously, in 2020, a lot of people got much better at it and had to do that.
Yep.
But with US
Yep.
based talent, but that management layer of how do you manage, how do you connect with your international team members or distributed team members? I mean, I think
Yep.
military you get a lot because you're working with people that you
Of
don't
course.
see, right? You got to communicate and get things done. So you're like, I'm sending messages, at whatever time, my time,
Yep.
connecting in DC, 12 hours later, right? And so you get these, emails crossing in the night, right?
I think you also, the other big advantage is you also take leadership itself seriously. I find that people who don't come from the right types of backgrounds, they don't even understand that leadership and management is a skill that can be worked on. Whereas you took a leadership class in college, I'm guessing. But yeah, exactly. But most, you're like, if I was like, what are the 7 pillars of leadership or some shit? Like, you'll know, like, oh, like character and virtuosity, right? Whereas a lot of people who end up running companies don't ever realize that they need to get good at like how to manage expectation, how to hold somebody accountable. These are all things you can work on, and they are a huge enabling factor to a global workforce. And it's not an accident. Like it doesn't happen accidentally. It's like, yeah, I'm working on being a better leader. Like I work on it every day.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't think I'm a great leader at all. I mean, I've seen great leaders, and like I pale in comparison to some
Yeah, me too.
guys and gals. I'm like, no, that guy's a great leader.
Yeah.
It's like I'm minorly okay at best, right? But it
Yeah.
is something that you can learn. A little bit different
Correct.
than like the entrepreneurship side. I think
Yeah.
being a great leader is so much more than like what I'll call like command presence, right? You stand in front of them and
Agree.
like you can get everyone to pay attention. You can yell or something like that, right? Like
Yeah.
that's not leadership, even though a lot of people think it's like the person standing up in the room and being loud, right? The person talking the most, the
Oh yeah.
leader. It's a skill you can learn. Good management you can learn. The
Oh
entrepreneurship
yeah.
one's still probably up for debate, but I absolutely believe what you
Yeah.
said, and being a good leader
Yeah.
is a teachable.
Huge part of it. And it's a huge part of making a global workforce effective, in my opinion. So it kind of magnifies whether you're good or bad, and in just in new ways. How do you think about, you have kind of like, and I have my own little shtick I talk about with this, but I'm interested in your perspective. How do you think about blending what is so obviously fundamentally a physical business? I mean, I don't think you can get more physical than break rooms. How do you think about that? How do you think about, and it's not just frankly a global workforce, it's any remote workforce. You know, um, the obvious answer 20 years ago was you service the 20 offices in Cleveland and you have a hub in Cleveland, and your employees drive out and they check them and they count how many bags and if it got stuck and whatever, right? That's the 25 years ago way that somebody would have approached this business. Maybe we'll franchise it, or we'll acquire other people's routes, and then we'll have a physical, right? Like, how do you think about specifically like remote talent? Again, whether it's US or global, which in my opinion, remote talent's remote talent, regardless of where it is. How do you think about that driving leverage within what is on its appearance about as physical of a business as it gets?
Yeah, I mean, moving atoms is always going to be, a physical thing. Like the
Yep,
people are going to expect the chips in their break room, right? So we have to get the chips
exactly.
from point A to point B. So there's always that component. But there's a lot of behind the scenes like orchestration of like getting the person the right thing. So, you probably don't know who it is. It's like, amateurs talk strategy, professionals talk
Oh,
logistics, right?
logistics. Yeah, come get at
And,
it.
and
Yeah, I don't know the name, but I know that quote.
yeah,
Yeah,
and so that's kind of the thing. It's like on the back end, like the part that we have to be really good at is making sure that person that is actually delivering the product from point A to point B has everything
yeah,
that they need to accomplish the job, right? Like that's the pointy part
yep,
of our spear. And so
yep,
everything else in the background is designed to make sure that they have what they need to give the customer what they want. And so
yep. It's enablers. It's enablers,
exactly. So
right?
that person on the pointy end of the spear, they're always going to be kind of in person. They're always going to be there,
Yep.
maybe robots one day, I don't know, right? But um
I
at the
doubt it. Yeah,
probably not. I've seen some of these office spaces. Some of them can be a little tricky to move around.
yeah,
But the rest of the team is designed to support them. So how do we build better systems, better processes, better technology to make sure that they
yep,
ultimately have what they need? Like my goal is always to make, when I think about the company, is make everyone's job as easy as it can be. Right? Like I
yeah.
want people to go to work and be
Oh
like,
yeah,
this is the easiest job I've
oh yeah.
ever had.
Great companies are ordinary people doing ordinary things for ordinary compensation.
Yeah.
I've always loved that line.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, I look at it as like it's everyone else's job to like give them the Iron Man suit, right? And now you can take
yeah,
somebody normal, put them in an Iron Man suit, and all of a sudden they're Iron Man. Right? Like
yeah,
that's
yep.
awesome.
We're gonna talk a little tech I hopefully at the end. So you, I think, actually more than anybody else, have an incredible example. I don't know if you use this analogy, but I've used versions of this before. How many when you look at an aircraft carrier, the job is to, roughly speaking, I'm going to simplify here, is to project a fighter jet wing in around the
Mhm.
world, right? How many jets does the aircraft carrier that you had on, how many did it have?
That's a great question. It's probably not 70, I want to say.
70. Okay. So, and there were probably 80 pilots, let's say,
Yeah, a little
right?
bit,
Or something, 90 or something, whatever.
whatever the
Okay.
number is.
How many how many people were on the aircraft carrier?
So the aircraft, if I remember right, it's something like a little over 3,000, 3,500 for ship's crew, and then there's another thousand.
Navy or
Yeah,
Marines?
for no, for because there's the air wing, like the maintainer.
Oh, there's the wing
The
and then the
pilot is
ship.
just the
Got
pointy
it.
end of the spear, right? It's everybody.
Well, no, but that was my analogy. So my analogy was going to be that if you have a guy who's an HVAC technician, he is the equivalent of your pilot. And for every one pilot, you have an IT guy, a cook, a refueler, a guy who drives the ship that the plane gets trans. And so I think when I look at people designing companies, I think that they have way too many pilots, which are hard and expensive, and not nearly enough enablers and supporters to basically sharpen the point of that spear, especially if that point is your constraint in your business.
Yes.
If it's your constraint, it's like dude, this guy, you're doing the equivalent of taking a pilot and making him cook his own lunch. And he's like, I can only fly 3 missions a day because I got to go cook my own lunch. It's like, we could hire you a chef. And so when you're looking at designing organizations, I think highest and best use of your finite resources is ultimately like up to the boss or the CEO, the leadership to design so that, as you said, everything is flowing through equipping, enabling that guy so he knows exactly what and he's efficient and he track like that to me is, and I think the aircraft carrier is a perfect example of the ratio is 80 to 3,000.
I think I look at it, very similarly, but I always use bottlenecks as kind of the
The constraints, bottlenecks, those are
the thing. And it's there in your business, there's always a bottleneck to growth, right? And so
constraint. Yep. You're speaking my language. Keep going. I love this.
Your job, I think, as the entrepreneur, or a manager, right? Anyone, right? It doesn't matter your department. What's the bottleneck in your department?
Oh yeah.
That is your job to solve. That's your job to remove that constraint so the business can continue to grow.
Totally
as soon as you eliminate that constraint, and this is why I really like my business, because it's always about removing constraints. Because as soon as one gets removed, there's another one.
That's the good part about constraints. They're one at a time.
There's another one.
Yep.
And they all need to be removed. You'll never do it, so you'll never complete it successfully. But it's sort of that process of like you keep going, you keep growing, another constraint pops up. And I kind of use an analogy of like, do you remember I think it was called like the kid show, like Temple of Doom or something like that?
Yeah. With the half a tome.
Yeah, they had the boulders kind of go down the hill or whatever, and you'd have to try to run up it. I never got to go on the show. I wanted to, but I still have this mental image of it because like you don't worry about the boulder at the top of the hill, right? You got to worry about that boulder right in front of you, and you have to get around that one first before the next one is even a problem. And you keep moving up, and that the boulders eventually get smaller, stop coming as frequently, and you can kind of make it to your goal. But in business, you just climb that one peak. Now you got the next one to climb.
I wrote a post on Twitter. It's amazing how much you and I share what is ultimately like a fundamental architecture. When I say what business is Sagan really in, it's helping companies attack their constraints. And it started with global talent, but it's growing into things like professional development, which we do a ton of. And now we're moving into AI agents because it's another tool to attack constraints. I wrote a post on Twitter that a lot of people really liked, which I was like, you're in a space station and you run out of oxygen in a minute, and you run out of food in a week, and you run out of fuel in a month. Do you take your 5 astronauts and say, okay, each of you take one of these? No, because if you don't fix the oxygen problem, you don't make it to the food problem. And so when you think about constraints, focusing like a freaking laser on running out of oxygen, you don't say, well, we got a lot of problems in the business, so I'm going to take half the people and put them on the fuel one. You're like, no. It's counterintuitive, but you don't spread resources equally. You attack that big boulder that's 6 inches in front of you, or you don't earn, that one's going to kill you, and you don't even get to the one behind it. So I've always liked that. I think people mess that up a lot. They hedge their bets. Everybody has OKRs. Everybody has rocks this quarter. And I'm like, I don't give a shit about your rocks. I give a shit about the boulder that's about to run me over. And how do I get more people problem solving against that boulder?
And then I don't know if that's maybe like military government sort of, side of the house where it's
maybe that is. Yeah. What's going to kill me next?
You have to hit that milestone, right? And then you worry about the second milestone and third milestone. And then a lot of times, you may not actually know what milestone 2 is until you get to 1, right? Like,
correct. Yeah, it might change.
Focused on like, I solved this problem. I know there's more to come. And I'll solve that when I get there. Like one foot in front of the next, right? And I think dealing with some of that physical pain, right? Like your body like makes you mentally stronger in terms of like being able to like go through those challenges and like, okay, I've got there.
Yeah.
I know what's going to happen.
I think when I started thinking about Sagan as being in the theory of constraints business, it started making sense to me, like where we can help and where there's better ways we can do it and worse ways we can do it. Because like ultimately, a global workforce is a feature, not a benefit. You don't care if it's the magic elves that do it. You don't care if it's AI. You don't care if it's this. You don't care. It's ultimately a feature. The benefit is attacking constraints at a price point that you couldn't otherwise with human beings effectively. And it helped me really, I think, see a deeper layer of a value proposition around constraints, because that's all I I think about basically being an enabler to your business to let you have more tools to attack your boulder that's coming at you, whether that's vendor recruitment or direct mail campaigns or technology, you know? So I'll transition or kind of expand this into, if you think of our business and your business in that way, absolutely a global workforce is one of the tools. But I know you have, for example, developers on staff, and we're working on some AI agent stuff for you too. I genuinely believe that in the future, if you fast forward, there's going to be a ratio where it's like for every one US based team member, there should be 3 global talent people and there should be 6 agents. Like, I think that there's going to be like this ratio because it's like you have $100,000 aircraft carrier. You need there's a recommended number of enablers for it. It's not one. Like, and so I actually think that it looks like a pyramid where you're like, we have one delivery guy. Okay. He gets 3 enablers and 6 technology enablers. Or because his payroll dollars are so expensive, I can't have him putting notes in CRM or,
Yep.
you know what I mean? And so I think that that's where there's a lot of productivity to be gained, which is thinking about the shape of organizations as a blend between like local payroll, global payroll, and technology enablement.
Yeah.
Does that resonate with you at all?
Absolutely. I think we kind of talked about this before a little bit, where I view kind of it as a pyramid, right? Like, and a lot of times, like, I'll put the entrepreneur at the top, right? Like you have the vision, you're building something, you're like, hey, I have a great idea how to do this, and you have to kind of, but your time's expensive, right? Your time is valuable. You got lots of things to do, so you have to delegate that down to typically your say your US based team member if you're kind of going in traditional sense, and they're the ones that are executing on that thing. But then there's a layer down of they can then delegate, and usually you're delegating down to less expensive resources, like typically, just how it works, right? If-
No, that's how it should work.
Yes.
Wait, not tip. That's how you don't delegate to a more expensive resource.
I think that, when we'll go into, I think, why like some companies
cool.
screw
All right,
up,
put a
screw that
bookmark
up, right?
in that.
You
Yeah,
should, but
okay.
sometimes people will try to go to technology, developer, software, right? Things that are very expensive, right? They're spending work to dev hours to solve a problem that isn't quite scoped correctly. And it's probably, it may not be value add enough to spend the time.
Don't tease me.
See?
This is right up my alley.
We
Keep
get
going.
there.
Don't tease me with this.
And then
this is great.
But
Keep
as
going.
you move down, right, like the clarity of the process, the clarity of the SOPs, like I'm not building an SOP for myself, right? I should, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to do it, right? I'm not going to build a Claude SOP, right? It's just, I mean, Claude AI maybe, but like Claude, I'm not going to do that. But it goes down. It's like, here's a rough idea. As it gets pushed down, SOPs get more detailed until you get to like where, the traditional global talent, right? Where it's like,
it's deterministic, and
it's just you're moving data from point A to point B, right? It's very easy to do. It's very systemized. Then you go, oh, we could automate that, right? We could use technology to automate that. We don't even need that person anymore. I think a lot of times people skip those steps, right? And they go straight to technology. Well, I can automate it. It's like, well, you don't even really know if this process works. You really like it. It's actually delivering.
We talked about that. I call that tumbling.
Yeah, tumbling is that.
We talked about that, right?
Yeah,
Where sometimes you need a process to be tumbled by a lower cost person before it's ready to say, okay, I'm going to build a parsing agent that looks at purchasing at Office Libations. But until you've tumbled it, it can't go from Claude to it's not mature enough. It's just a huge waste. I also think of a lot of this technology, and you mentioned it. Did you read the Phoenix Project about DevOps? And it's like theory of constraints and lean management in a like an IT environment. It's really good, and it's written as a narrative story. I gave it to a bunch of the folks on my team. It was recommended by a fan of the podcast who I'm going to stay anonymous because he has a relationship with a competitor of ours. That it's like he's like my buddy, but I can't call him out by name. What I was going to say was we talked about trucks and trains, right?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, that's this guy, Ryan, who was I think he was a systems engineer like back in the day, and now he runs like a automation agency kind of thing. And it's my best analogy that I like for this, which is he says human beings are like trucks. They have lower carrying capacity, but you can go wherever you want. They can still transport material, and you'll always need them. Because even if you look at a copper mine that's been around for 100 years, they're still trucks because whatever. Deterministic automations are like trains. You don't go exploring with train tracks. But when you know where you're going and what you're carrying, your cost per ton can collapse. But you don't go, oh, I don't know where we're going. Let's start building train tracks. Similarly, though, if you're doing the same thing over and over from a known point to a known point with a known load, you're crazy to go buy 50 trucks. And so he calls it trucks and trains. And I'm like, I like that. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Like, yeah, trucks and trains,
yeah.
right? Trucks and trains. It's his. It's 100% his.
I mean, that is a very good, I think, analogy. I think the part that's like, super exciting to me today is that the cost to lay train tracks is wildly inexpensive.
Oh yeah.
Like,
and
they don't
I would also argue,
right? You can lay them anywhere.
And correct. And I would also argue that automation is not AI. Meaning part of what makes AI powerful is it's not deterministic. And you can has some flex in the line in a way that when it's a make automation or an N8N flow, which is very highly deterministic, this is more like, take a look at these emails we've gotten and flag any that I should know about.
Yeah.
Whoa, that is not an automation. That is an AI agent, right? So I actually think the answer is, when we build stuff for our members and stuff, which we're doing, it depends on the workflow. I mean, when you're pushing stuff out of QuickBooks, you cannot have a non-determinist. Oh, it kind of fuzzed the numbers, right? But I think in other instances, it's exactly what you should be doing.
Yeah, I think that's part of like why like people have gotten really excited about it, is because there's usually something that's like a little fuzzy, right? That doesn't allow you to completely go through it. And AI is pretty good at like taking that, what a human would typically do. Okay, we get it, person, they make a decision based off a heuristic, and then we kind of go with it. And I think there's like a little bit of like misconception, right? Like everyone expects AI to be like that deterministic path. Like it's always accurate. And that's not how it works. Like maybe it gets to that point, but humans also aren't that way. We make mistakes, like we screw things up. So we're trying to judge, I think some of that fuzzy AI logic against a person, when a lot of times the person is worse, right? Like doesn't need to be.
It's like, it's like, does your human do that?
Yeah, it's like, people make mistakes. Well, what happens when they make a mistake? Oh, stuff goes on, we catch it later, right? It's like, okay, what's the
word? The word, and it's to like use a $5 word, but to me, it's like the epistemology.
That is I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, it's like the theory of knowledge. Like the knowledge theory of AI is wrong, or sorry, most people view it wrong. You don't need it to be perfect for it to be highly useful. You just have to understand how it works, because you don't need perfect recall or in order for it to be massively useful. You just have to know that it's imperfect. Right? Like you just have to understand that. And you have to bake in controls, and you have to bake in rails, and you have to understand when it's a deterministic workflow versus non-deterministic. And that's when people are like, well, I gave it this and it didn't know the answer. It's like, you have an incorrect theory of knowledge as to what this thing is.
Yeah, but also, who cares? Like, who cares if it?
Correct. Well, depending on the function, the answer could be who cares. The answer could also be, hey, dude, don't plug it into your outbound wires. Like, you can't have it mess up 2 digits every couple days.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
Yes, I do agree.
So I think it's also where to apply.
It doesn't have it's not always the tool to use, right? But a lot of times it's like, it's going to give me pretty good, what's the ROI on that tool versus like saving someone time? They make errors at the same rate. That's a great thing.
Correct. And this one never sleeps. Yeah. I mean, we have a, I'll show a little Sagan leg here. We do a phase 1, just very lightweight screening. And then based on if it goes okay, it upgrades to like some of our, our talent advisors, which are like our recruiters, right? And, we're getting so many applications. We've seen the best way to get great people is volume. It's just, quantity has a quality of its own. we determined that if it wasn't for our ability to do a initial triage of applications with AI, I would need a screening team of 130 people to view as many applications as I do right now.
That's awesome.
I'd have to have 130 people full time. Now, does that go straight to Claude? Of course not, right? But from based on it's a blend of human and machine outputs, and I'm like, thank God, because I would have had to add 120 people to get the same amount of essentially applications reviewed.
And that's why I love the Iron Man suit analogy, right? Like all of a sudden, I just made my people better. Like that's
exactly
what I did. I didn't eliminate jobs. I didn't like move things. I just made my people better, and to be able to
accelerate
things and in some ways elevate the level and of quality, like maybe not quality, but the level of work that they're doing. They're not doing busy work, right? They're actually focused on things that
we elevate them. Yeah, we do the same thing. I basically say, guys, this job's going away, and here are the types of problems that are going to stay: sales, solving problems, building relationships, but moving things from Airtable into an ATS. I just if we're still doing that by hand, it's just because I haven't had time to automate it. Like, literally, it's just because I haven't. So this will be the last little exchange. So I know we're building some tooling for you, even though you have developers, and I think it actually ties into some of the stuff we've talked about, which is one of the things we're trying to do is change the paradigm of kind of OODA to, again, if we don't go too far up the Department of Defense's butt, OODA loop, right? The observe, orient, decide, act cycle of deploying basically maneuverability of cost and speed for kind of technology and agents and stuff like this. It's not a 6-month development cycle and you need 4 full-time devs and you're pushing. It's like, hey, let's get you something in a week. Let's see if it works. If it's good, we'll build more. If it's not good, we won't. But it's changing the relationship between businesses and technology. Have you guys messed around with, when in your business, the one that jumps out to me, I'm assuming you've already done this. Are you guys doing stuff with pictures as a QC mechanism that then gets kind of like scored and graded and coached with like an image model? That's one that jumps out to me with you guys.
Yeah. So we.
Okay, good. See, you said no, we might not do it, and I knew you'd be doing it. It's a great one.
Well, we don't do it. To be honest, we don't do it at that level. We haven't quite got the level of fidelity from photos that it's probably not far off, but we end up with a lot more. I always get it screwed up. False positives or false negatives than is reasonable to do.
Got it.
For us,
it's not there yet.
An international team member to help grade the.
There you go. Did we find them for you? Double points if we found them for you.
No.
Okay. I know we found a bunch.
Yes, actually, yes, you did. All right. See, now everybody's happy. But it's still that, that
we could have, though,
we're
Claude.
not quite there at that bottom automation level, but we have experimented with it, and it is something that is likely going to be in the future. How it is, all these, and this is one of the things that I tell people is like, these tools are only getting better, right? And they're moving super fast, like only better. So like you either are doing it now with a process that's it's only 80%. Well, great, you kind of have an idea because in 6 months it's probably going to be at 95. And
things that were not possible when I first started are now like, oh no, it's good enough now.
I mean, Claude Cowork came out, and like I used to use ChatGPT pretty much exclusively, and like I saw what that stuff could do, and I was just like, nope, like this is insane. Just absolutely insane. But I think if you know how to use the tool right, like how to maneuver the Iron Man suit, it's gonna level up people to a level that you could only dream of, right? You can go to all the school you want. You could, work till, dusk till dawn, and you're never gonna reach that level of capability that, we have today with these things.
Yeah. Now where are you based?
I live in the Raleigh, North Carolina area.
Cool.
The team spread across the country though. And
cool.
I guess the world.
You should say the world. The one of the things that I'm going to do it in June, I'm going to start talking about it a little bit more. I don't even have like a waiting list page up yet, but I'm realizing that we internally, there's this huge demand, and I got to think about a better way to brand it because this isn't the way to brand it. But I want to do a live event for just like a couple days, and it'll be like free or super low cost for Sagan members, like whatever. but it's really about like creating the environment that has your team actually using AI and technology to make more money or increase throughput. And it's not just like you sending an email to your team saying, hey, everybody, you have access to ChatGPT, like use it more.
Mhm.
Because we're learning all sorts of things like you don't want to give everybody access to Claude code because now your head of whatever, is going to be trying to vibe code something that you could have given to a dev and that would have done it. So like the architecture around using it to build more utility in your company, I think, especially in a non-technological environment, I think there's just so much thought and best practices that we've learned from experience that, like, again, you need to have everybody. I'll give you one sample of something that I want to talk about. Everybody in your company needs to be able to spot an opportunity for AI and automation, but they are not then the one who pursues the tool. You're like, thank you, guy who's closest to the problem, for spotting that you're putting in the barcodes by hand. But then you don't be like, oh, here's a Claude code and some tokens, go solve it. And so, like, there's spotters. So you have to teach people how to spot, but then there's actually builder. Like, so thinking about the architecture where we all who are building brick and mortar companies can come up with, like, I don't want to say policy guidance because it'll put people to fall asleep, make people fall asleep. I had to come up with like a better
Yeah.
title, but I'm
Policy
just,
guidance, like,
I can't say like policy, like, but ultimately that's what it is. It's like how to use AI to make more money, not just like, hey, did you know you could like save prompts and reuse them? I'm like, dude, just watch a YouTube video for that.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
actually think the change management, right? And this is the like
Yes, change management's part of it.
AI
Yep.
is going to take every job. It's like, no, it's not. Change management is too hard to actually like execute, especially at a large company. Like
Yeah.
it's a whole nother piece. It's not a technology problem anymore. I don't think. I think it's really just to your point, the spotter. Like, how could we do this? I don't remember
Correct.
exactly the principle, but it's like a task expands to the amount of time that you have to do it, right?
Yeah. Yep. It's like Bernoulli's law with like gas in a chamber, right? Or something. I think that's Bernoulli's
Exactly.
law.
So it's like, here's
I
how
hope
much
it
work
is.
I have. It takes me all day to do it. So like most people don't look at that and be like, well, what happens if I could do it half the time?
Correct.
Right. As a business owner, a lot of times you're like,
Like,
if I didn't half the time, I got half my time to go do something else, right? Grow the business. But most people, the
oh yeah.
task just expands to how often you double the amount of work. It takes the same amount of time, right? It's
Oh
not
yeah.
like you get a savings in there. And
And Claude doesn't make more money. All Claude did was just buy ChatGPT for everybody, and Claude did not increase his throughput.
yeah,
And so, using technology and AI to increase throughput is a deliberate motion. It's not giving everybody ChatGPT and saying we should use more AI. Because then what do? They rewrite emails. That's literally all they'll do. Is rewrite emails.
I do think I do
Of
think it is a skill set though to be able to like recognize like how can you automate? How does technology work? Right? Like
course,
that is
of
a skill
course.
set that not everyone necessarily has. I mean, I have our team. One of the things I'm like shadow somebody else, right? That doesn't work for you, right? So you don't really know what they do, and be like, why do you do that? And so that's one of the things I've like asked my leadership
It's a
to
good
do is
one.
like,
But I want to have like a symposium where a bunch of business owners sit around and we're like that's a great one. Shadowing is a great example of one. But there's all these like tips and tricks for actually increasing
mhm,
throughput at from top to bottom of your company. It's because I don't think good AI use is going to be top down. It's not going to be Claude mandated that everybody uses 1,000 tokens a week or you're fired. It's much more kind of it's much more of an emergent phenomenon. But so you have to kind of create the conditions to which your head of inventory feels compelled to build with AI, not you saying you must use AI or you're fired. I just don't think that's going to
oh,
work.
that will definitely.
It's just not going to work. But there are people doing that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I was at I won't say the tech company, but yeah, they're like logging like how many tokens like certain people are using with their
So dumb.
ChatGPT or Claude, whichever one they have. But I do think
So dumb.
it's going to be transformational for businesses that figure out
Oh
how
yeah.
to get all of their people doing that. Ultimately, I
Correct.
think that when you're younger, earlier career, that's going to be like how you kind of get your foot in the door. Is like I'm going to help redo all of this and like move
Oh yeah.
around. I think if you're not, you know, AI native in terms of like workforce in the next couple years, you're going to look like a dinosaur. It's going to,
It's a really exciting time. I mean, when we look at our calendar and stuff, like for example, we want to be, we'll probably be running, how to spot AI and automation opportunities, and it's free for people at Sagan to send their team to, because we're learning a lot about it and how to, who gets Claude Code versus who gets Cowork versus who gets the web only version versus who do you keep the hell away from AI because that's not their job. They restock the shelves.
Yep.
Right. So I think there's just so much to be talked about and debated and discussed. I'm like, I just want to get a bunch of, it'll mostly be Sagan members, like in a room to just start talking about things we've learned and best practices. And because there's just so much, it's being discovered. We're discovering it right now.
I was at a conference last week, and there's a bunch of people who are just using it for email, right? Business owners, right? And that's the core use case. Like 8N is like something they've never heard of, right?
Correct.
Like
correct. Yeah. So
that gap, right, is to me opportunity for people who take care, advantage,
hugely.
right? You're like,
hugely.
how are you running at 10x the size of what you should be, or 10th of the size of what you should be based on your recruiters? Oh, it's like, well, we use technology, right? And it's like
global talent and tech.
How'd you do that? And you're like, well, and ultimately, like the market pays for outcomes, right? They don't care how you.
Of course,
that they got the outcome that they wanted. And so I think companies that figure this out faster, like, and really kind of go really commit to it, right? And it's a true commitment, because it's not always going to work, right? You're going to have.
Correct. And it's not a memo saying we're going to be an AI first company. Yeah. It's not that. That doesn't work.
Yeah. No, memos never work. Nobody reads them.
Exactly. There's like a richness there. So, all right. So Claude, we have a lot of business owners who listen to the pod. Is there a particular geographic market you service or a type of person that you're looking to meet or anything like that? So just, and where can they find you kind of thing?
Yeah. So me personally, LinkedIn is great. Cool. You used to just be able to Google me, but that's not happening anymore. LinkedIn's great. We service high growth professional service companies, tech companies, advanced manufacturing firms, anyone that wants a kind of done for you pantry solution. And then for smaller businesses, we have officesnackboxes.com, which is kind of a customizable snack box that
nice.
People can send to their teams. We do it for a lot of remote teams, or smaller offices that it doesn't make sense for a full on pantry program.
So is pantry nationwide or just California?
California, New York, Denver, Austin currently, and then we got a few other markets that are likely to pop.
Cool. And then the boxes to service.
And then snack boxes is sort of nationwide. That one's pretty easy.
So check out Office Libations or ping Claude on LinkedIn. Any final thoughts, comments? Talk shit about anybody? I feel like we cursed a little bit in the beginning, and then our like brains kicked in and we didn't curse. So I feel like if you want to tell like a horrible Navy story or something, I don't know. I feel like it feels appropriate.
Yeah, I don't think I know.
No? Okay, you want to talk shit about anybody? Be like those Snackwell guys suck or something. I don't know. Like
no. I mean,
no?
I think
right.
I think it's
beat Army. Do you want to say beat Army? I mean, I don't even know.
Actually, what's funny is like going to the Naval Academy, I didn't know anyone that went to West Point, and I guess there was one person I knew, which was a girl I dated's dad went to West Point. That was it. Right. Okay. And now like I hang out with like all West Point guys. Like the vast majority of guys I know in business are West Pointers. And they're surprisingly, to be honest with you, they're actually okay human beings. So that's about as raving a review as you'll probably get.
I mean, that's a huge, put that on a sign. I mean, that is about as complimentary as you'll get from a Naval Academy guy.
West Point, actually decent human beings.
Actually, we're on the same side. Claude Burns.
No, they're
awesome, Claude. Well, thanks for coming on the pod, and enjoy the discussion as always.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, man.